What, would you change your behavior at all, or
Some would.
some people would?
Yeah.
How so?
It's the sick role. Like if somebody has more power to do something, they'll change it to get what they want, depending on how much power somebody else has.
Okay.
Well, what isn't the sick role where, like, say you have like something that's really stressful the next day, you could play sick. Oh, like you can make out something that you have, like a cough, and turn it into something way more drastic than it actually is. Where if you got something good going on the next day, you're not gonna act like the cough is nothing.
Right, that's part of it, but it's also like, what if you are legitimately sick, you kind of start to act that way, like you behave like you're sick in order to get the treatment that you need. So like, you know you're sick, okay, in our society, you have this status now of being ill, right? Of having cancer or whatever else. What behaviors should you have then? You should go to the doctor, you should wait in line, you should go online and try to seek out ideas, right? You should be eating correctly and sleeping a lot, etc. That's the expected behavior for somebody that's sick. For a doctor, somebody that holds that status, they should have like the role of being an advisor, but also they should have the role of being like a medical expert, like knowledgeable, so that they can like diagnose the disease. And then they also have a role of like a counselor or a comforter as well, right? So they should like empathize with you and feel sorry for you too. Okay? All right, that shifts us to chapter 15 on demographics. Demography, as we talked about in class, is the study of people and populations. What's the difference between fertility and mortality?
One's like a birth rate and the other's a death rate.
Okay, so which one's which then?
Fertility is the birth rate, mortality is the death rate.
Fertility is the birth rate, mortality is the death rate. Urbanization is the process by which people leave rural areas and move to urban areas. We've seen this in the United States quite a bit. Does this happen in other countries?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty much a worldwide phenomenon right now. What you are seeing in some instances is people that live in big towns move into suburbs that are close to bigger towns, but they're still in that more urban area, right? So some communities that are slightly outside of urban areas, like Horace would be a prime example, are growing quite a bit, to the point that eventually, if we wait around, nothing major changes in this area, there's not going to be a difference between West Fargo and Horace, right? That stretch that you would drive to get to Horace, that would be all filled in with houses eventually. Okay, in developing countries, low-income countries, do they have a high fertility rate?
Yes.
Okay, is their mortality rate fairly high?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, so what would their population pyramid look like?
Start out really big at the bottom and turn really small at the top.
Right, so it looked like this, right? Now the United States, we have fairly low birth rates, fairly low death rates. What does our population pyramid look like then?
Bulge in the middle, got a big old beer belly.
Not that big, but it'd be like a bulge where the baby boomers are, and the rest is fairly equal, okay? Life expectancy in the United States, what are we sitting at approximately?
76 to 80.
76 to 80, yep. So who lives longer, males or females? Females live longer. We also talked about something called demographic transition theory in class. I'm not going to expect you to know all the stages of that, so don't waste time like learning that for an essay. But I do want you to know what the basic premise of it is, okay? So what's the basic premise of it? Like,
You start out with high birth rates and death rates, and then when you become industrialized, the death rate goes down, and then as you become more industrialized, the birth rate goes down back to where they're kind of even again.
okay, so you start out, there's a high birth rate and a high death rate, and then the thing that changes it is industrialization and technology. One of the clips we watched in class talked about zero population growth. What was the argument presented in that clip?
That even in a country like the United States, even just a slightly above 0% population growth still amounts to a lot of people being born every year, and that zero population growth like really isn't ever going to happen.
Well, it
He said it
is
wasn't.
eventually, but what's going to happen that causes zero population growth?
No more plate, like we run out of space for them.
Right, so he said it's basically going to be either like good things or bad things. His argument was we want it to be things that are more tolerated, right? We don't want warfare or disease or malnutrition to cause zero population growth. We want it to be essentially like family planning or making wiser decisions. That was his argument, okay? I think those terms are straightforward: metropolitan area, suburb, megalopolis. Let's go to Gemeinschaft, Gesellschaft, mechanical solidarity, and organic solidarity, okay? Which two of those concepts, because Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft are related, and then mechanical and organic solidarity are related also. Which one is more common in rural areas? Which two, I should say?
Mechanical solidarity and Gemeinschaft.
And Gemeinschaft, yep. Gesellschaft and organic solidarity are more common in urban areas. So with Gemeinschaft, you come together, it's based on like closeness in the social organization that's driven by like family ties or tradition. With Gesellschaft, you're coming together on like mutual interests. So to work, to be involved in an activity, etc. Okay? And then mechanical and organic solidarity is basically the same concept, just different terminology, developed by Durkheim. Mechanical is social bond based on values, and then organic is based on like the specialization in an occupation or activities. I think environment and ecosystem are pretty straightforward. And then functionalism, conflict, and SI. I'm not going to talk about those. That's just the statement one, right? So if you see a statement that says that dropout rates are high in the African American community, this is because of oppression, which philosophy or which theoretical perspective would believe this? You'd say conflict theory, okay? All right, that leads us to social change, chapter 16, which is the chapter that we're talking about right now. You guys signed the sheet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have patterns in social change and causes in social change. What is one of the main causes of social change? At the heart of to conflict theorists, let's start that way. To conflict theorists, what causes social change?
People unhappy.
Yeah. Unrest that leads to some type of conflict that then over time will lead to the change. Good. To functionalists, like Weber pointed this out especially, what causes social change? Not so much the conflict itself. He talked about ideas being the root cause of social change. We talked about the 4 types of social movements in class quite a bit yesterday and today. Again, what are the 2 standards that people use to determine the types of social movements?
Who and how much?
Yeah, who's involved, and then how much change is involved. So we had that graphic on page number 487. I would study that so that you can understand the types of social movement. So we have alternative, redemptive, reformative, and revolutionary. Alternative is a small group with small amount of change. Redemptive is a small group but a lot of change. Reformative is everybody or virtually everybody in society with limited change. And then revolutionary is a lot of people and a lot of change. Okay? So that's going to be an essay question. Again, it'll be slightly different for each class, but that'll be an essay question that you have to explain a little bit. And then the rest, I think, is pretty straightforward. Okay? Any questions? All right, make sure that you signed in if you wanted to. And then, yeah, Holly, if you want to hit stop.
So that's pretty much all that we're doing.
Where's it at?
I can get it.
That's pretty much all we're doing.
That's gonna be on camera. Where's it at?